Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's your old pal Mr. Butter coming back at you, and today I want to get into what might be my best pickup of 2022. In 1947, Jackie Robinson made his debut as the first African-American player in the MLB, and this year marks the 75th anniversary, and Nike really delivered on a commemorative 75th anniversary Jackie Robinson dunk low. If you're into kicks and you feel like hanging out, then hit that subscribe button. Let's get into these Jackie Robinson dunk lows. Alright, so I always go over the box, but honestly, this doesn't even matter. It's a regular box. I would have liked to have seen a commemorative box for such a significant pair of shoes like this. However, standard Nike box like we see all dunks come in. The tag reads Nike Dunk Low. The colors are listed as racer blue. This is a size 10, and I am elated that my wife's account hit for my personal size in this shoe. There's a lot to get into with this pair of kicks, but I think more importantly, I think we have to take a minute to recognize what Jackie Robinson did for the sport of baseball, for all sports, and for humankind as we know it, if we're being honest. Jackie Robinson in 1947 became the first African-American Major League Baseball player. As if that wasn't enough, he went on to win Rookie of the Year that year. He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. Right now it's the LA Dodgers, but back then it was the Brooklyn Dodgers. So he went on to win Rookie of the Year in 1947, and then 2 years later he had his best season ever, and he was named MVP of the National League, which stands for Most Valuable Player, of course, and that basically solidified the fact that he deserved to be in the same playing field. He took advantage of it. He put in the work, he did it with class. He really just paved the way for, you know, all African-American athletes across the board. Jackie Robinson made his rookie debut in 1947, won MVP in 1949. Rosa Parks, where she refused to give her seat to a white man on the bus and she got arrested for it, that was in 1955. I was expecting it to be earlier than that. However, that was in 1955. So that was 8 years after Jackie Robinson became the first African-American to play in the MLB. And then even more surprising than that, I think Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech wasn't until the 60s. I think it was about 17 years after Jackie Robinson made his debut playing in the MLB, and also then 2 years later won the MVP as an African American, when, you know, this was not a time that equal rights was a popular discussion. You know, this was almost 2 decades before Martin Luther King even came around and gave his speech. So it's just interesting to me because I feel like in a lot of ways, Jackie Robinson probably helped pave the way for heroes like Rosa Parks and heroes like Martin Luther King, simply because the first person to go down a path has the biggest workload. But when we think of those timelines and we think of Jackie Robinson making his debut that far before Rosa Parks' famous, you know, arrest for refusing to give up her seat and not going to the back of the bus, it just really gives me pause, because that couldn't have been easy. I mean, he had everything stacked against him, and I'm sure there were probably times that he just wanted to throw his hands in the air and give up. However, not only did he pave the way for all African-American athletes, but then he worked his tail off and he was a huge success, and one that people couldn't deny. And there was no questioning whether or not then African Americans deserved a seat at the table, you know? As you can see here on the back, there's a number 42, and that of course was Jackie Robinson's number. He was later inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and his jersey number was retired as a tribute to how amazing of a player and just a human being he was. And then all over the shoe, you can probably see that there's this font on these blue overlays, and it's done very well. It looks really, really nice. But even more important than how nice it looks and how cool it is the text, what the text says in and of itself. All of this text actually says, "I'm not concerned with your liking or disliking me. All I ask is that you respect me as a human being." And I gotta give kudos to Nike for using that quote. I think it's a really powerful statement, and I really love how Jackie said, "All I ask is that you respect me as a human being." He didn't say as a baseball player, you know, he didn't say as a pretty good guy. He basically said he just wanted his respect as a fellow human being, and I think that's really, really powerful. If you can see down on the insole, there's also more of that font spelling out that famous quote. That quote is probably my favorite feature on these shoes. I just think that it definitely deserves being honored there. I think it's just really powerful words, and it honestly, like, it gives me chills whenever I think about what it says. But on top of that, some things worth noting about the shoe. Of course, as I already said, the number 42 there on the back. The swoosh is like a wool or a felt material, and it definitely gives you the vibes of like those jerseys from way back in the day. But it's kind of got a border effect because there's a piece of felt right behind it, like black felt. But it definitely looks like those jersey numbers from way back when. Then another cool feature is on these laces. You can see that blue stitching kind of on the edges of the laces, and that's a nod to the baseball stitches. On the tag of the tongue, we can see that it says 75 years breaking barriers. And it's like the baseball diamond with bats behind it. And I think that's a nice touch as well. The shoes did come with spare laces, and they are just plain blue flat laces. I will definitely keep these white laces with the baseball stitching on there. But getting into the review, we can see we have a standard Dunk outsole. There's nothing to go over there. It's in a black color. We've all seen it before. Pivot point in the front, Nike branding there at the midfoot. And as we come up, it meets a bright white midsole, and you can see that we've got some of that nice blue color for the stitching there in the midsole, and that's a nice contrast. I like the way that pops. But then coming up from that, we've got this blue. It kind of feels like what some people call a Durabuck. I call it a felt, but it doesn't really feel like a natural material, but it looks really, really nice, and I love the way this text looks on there. It just came out really, really well. The font doesn't look like too much. It really is subtle whenever you see it in hand, and depending on how the light hits it, sometimes it's more noticeable than others, and I think that's a really neat effect. But I honestly, I wouldn't care if it was even louder, just because I think it's such a powerful statement and it deserves to be seen. One of my buddies that I met through YouTube, who has another channel, Logan J, he always says that he likes when shoes start a conversation, and I feel like these shoes definitely are a gateway to having a conversation. Like whenever my son gets bigger, and I can tell him the story of Jackie Robinson, I can tell him about the quote on here, and I can share with him that little bit of just baseball history and to American history, just, you know, the history of people. But I just think it's such a powerful story, and it really does, it it helps me feel hopeful for the future, and it just gives me an optimistic outlook on mankind and what people can accomplish, you know. But you can see that text on those blue overlays on the mudguard, going up the eye stays, and then wrapping around the heel. And of course, like I mentioned, we've got that wool and felt swoosh, which is a nod to old school baseball uniforms. Then on the back heel tab, it's more of that Durabuck type material, and you've got some Nike in some like silver metallic font that's just printed on there. But then the base of the shoe, it feels like it's a nubuck. I'm assuming that's what it is, but it has such a high-end look. I don't know if you can see the grains of this leather, but it looks incredible. It's very, very soft, and like I said, it does feel like it's a nubuck, something with very, very short hair, but the look of it is just incredible, and you really see a lot of nice texture. The color's really rich. It's like a sail or cream color. You can see compared to the midsole, it's definitely got more of a cream hue, but it looks really, really nice on there. And you can see that material on the base here on the side panels, and then on the back as well. But I really, really love that material on the base of the shoe. I didn't mention we've got this little swoosh embroidered on here in the same blue and then outlined in black. And you can see the perforations like we always have. Our tongue is more of that really high quality feeling nubuck material, and there you can see when it wrinkles, you just have a lot of nice texture. It is so soft to the touch, but they didn't give us a nylon tongue for these. They gave us more of that high-end material. And there's that tag, like I mentioned before, 75 years breaking barriers. And it's got some of that racer blue piping going along the edges, and the tongue feels very padded as well. But there, as I'm pressing on it, hopefully you can see just those ripples and the nice texture that it has. The sock liner is more of that racer blue, and down on the insole there's some Nike branding and more of that silver metallic like we have on the heel tab, but it's also got that powerful quote about respecting him as a human being. Honestly, when I first got this W, I was considering to myself that I might see where the value was, and I was thinking I might part with these in order to grab the Cactus Jack Jordan 1s that just dropped this week that I struck out on. However, after getting these in hand and really just thinking about the significance and what these stand for, and I just really appreciate these shoes, and they really give me that warm fuzzy feeling. I wouldn't trade these for the Travis Scott Cactus Jack Jordan 1 lows right now. I'm not saying I don't want those Cactus Jack Jordan 1 lows. However, these mean more to me than that, and I think these mean more to humanity than really any other shoe that I've ever had before. There's just so much good that is signified here on this pair of shoes, and I think Nike really did them justice. I think Nike really knocked this one out of the park, and I'm really pumped to have this pair in my collection. But let me know what you all think about them, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.